Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today, what we have here is one of my interesting Phalaenopsis orchid, and the name is Zhujiang Krishna, and the parentage is listed at the bottom of the video here for your reference. This one is an interesting one because this year the flowers bloomed out in a different way, and later in the video I'll show you the bloom photos of this orchid from 2019 and you can kind of see it for yourself. But if we go back in time, end of January 2020 was when I first spotted signs of new flower spikes emerging. So it was trying to put out a new flower spike, and then from its existing old flower spike, it started to also grow something. At first, I didn't think that it was gonna be a continuation of the existing spike. I thought it was just trying to grow something, but I wasn't sure because I actually don't know this orchid is a sequential bloomer. I didn't know until it started to elongate its older spike. And at the time, around March 2020, it was growing a new leaf and growing a bunch of new roots. So it was an active growth, and it was interesting. It was just maturing its buds, growing new leaves and new roots. It was just a lot happening. But one thing interesting about this orchid this time around is if you could look at the buds closer, you can tell that the buds has a little bit of opening on both of them. So I don't know what was going on. I think it was a deformity somehow, and I didn't think that these buds would make it, because I was thinking, gosh, when they were so little, they had already had that opening, and I didn't know what was going on. So I thought, you know what, I'll continue the care as if it were, going to continue to grow the buds. And actually it did. So they just kept growing. And around mid-April, I started to see the buds to plump even more, and it started to change color to the color, to be a little bit more yellow. So I just kept going, thinking that, if it makes it, it makes it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. In terms of care, this one is grown in semi-hydro, and the pebble ratio is 1:1. And if you look closer later in the video, you'll notice that lots of roots are still in active growth. So I think for this orchid, if nothing is wrong with the roots, I will not repot it. And I usually give this orchid 25% strength fertilizer with about 1/4 cup of water. That's about it. There is lots of roots already reaching the bottom of the cup, so I usually give it 1/4 cup of water, and that would be enough for a wet dry cycle of 7 days, 7 to 8 days. So here you have a better view of the bloom. So what I'm trying to say is the flowers, the sepals, the edge of the sepals and petals are, has this flaring going on. It's not the typical bloom that has smooth edges or smooth outline, but still striking though. If you look at the yellow edge and then the white center, and this orchid really just has two colors, yellow and white, and that's it. Last year's bloom were much more smooth, and it's more flat and extended, and this year the bloom, it just has a little bit too more, for the lack of a better word, flares. This time around it doesn't have that much fragrance. Last year it had some fragrance, it has that little tiny minty fragrance to it, but it's not a strong fragrance. I had to put my nose very close to the flower to even smell it. So this orchid is not grown for its fragrance. It's really grown for its color, and that is the yellow edge and then the white center, which I consider to be pretty nice looking because you don't really see that many orchids with this nice, distinctive color difference, and yet have very neat color edge around the flowers, and then you have this pure white center. So like you see here in the video, lots of new root tips are growing, and many of them are growing into the media. So it's a very good thing. That means this orchid is liking the condition, the pebble ratio. So I don't think I'm going to repot this orchid anytime soon unless I have to, meaning if there is any root rot issue or any pest infestation, then I will have to do something about it. But otherwise, I'll just leave the aerial roots, grow however they want. It has already had many aerial roots that are a little annoying sometimes. As much as I love aerial roots, they're taking a little bit too much horizontal space, but given the way that the roots are growing inside the container, I am not going to disturb this orchid until I need to. For semi-hydro, I know, many people have the question of, do you always fill up the reservoir? And my answer, or at least the way I do it, is no, I don't do that. Initially though, when this orchid was just potted into this container in this media, I did always fill up the reservoir because, I wanted the water level to be as high as possible so that this orchid can get enough water and moisture from the bottom. But now that there are roots reaching the bottom already, I don't really need to have that high of a water level. I simply need to use the amount of water that I know will allow for this orchid to have a wet-dry cycle of 1 week or so, and that's when I water most of my other orchids. So if it's 7 days, then that's perfect. And so far in summertime, quarter cup is the right amount for this cup to completely reach that wet-dry cycle of 7 days. On the 7th day, you may still see a little bit of moisture, but not by much. And if I wanted to wait, I could wait for a couple more days. But typically 7 day is when it'll get dry. And in winter time, obviously, it'll be less water. And sometimes, most of the time actually, in winter, I would reduce the water amount to about 1/8 of a cup. But once a month though, I definitely would only use water to soak it really well, so that way I get to quote-unquote flush this orchid by soaking it, so that the pure water can wash away, carry away some of the soap buildup and unnecessary substance that's inside the cup. So coming up is the bonus footage of this video, and these are the photos from 2019, and I will let you be the judge of why I say this year's bloom is a little bit interesting, aka out of whack, because last year you can see the flowers are very extended, flat, as well as having very smooth edges around the petals and sepals. Nothing weird, but this year, like you saw earlier, it has a lot of interesting flares around the flower, and I really didn't know why the buds had small openings as they were maturing. I really don't know what was happening there. For those of you who may know what happened this orchid this time around, let me know. It could be, light or other condition, or it could be fertilizer. I don't know, but it'll be interesting. Another thing I see with this orchid is that the new spike, the new section that grew out from the old spike, is skinnier. So I think after this year's blooming cycle ends for this orchid, I'm gonna cut that spike off and wait for a new spike to emerge, because I believe it's already skinny, and then even if it elongate further, it'll probably be skinny as well, and I just don't think that the display or bloom will be as good. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!